Hi, it's Laurel Dietz from Millennial Legal Coaching, and I'm here with Rebecca Aline, who, if you live in Victoria, you need no introduction to, but I will give her a chance to introduce herself. I just wanted to say before we start that this video is specifically for any family lawyers out there who might be watching. And if you aren't a family lawyer, but you are going through a divorce or separation right now, do stick around and watch. You might learn a thing or two. And we do hope that the program that Rebecca is working on right now might be available to the public in the future, but I don't believe it will be just yet. Anyhow, Rebecca, why don't you introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, what's your training, and why are you here? What are you telling us about?
Okay, well, thanks for having me. I'm Rebecca Aline. I'm a family lawyer, really working only as a mediator these days in Victoria. I help people through their separations, for the most part, sort of beginning to end of the separation agreement. And my training is, I have my undergrad, which feels like eons ago, was in business, like a commerce degree, and then went to law school after that. But yeah, like it does feel like the many years of practicing family laws made me almost forget about all of that.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't I don't often hear much about that, so I was interested.
yeah,
How long have you been practicing law and mediating for now?
yeah, I've been practicing law since 2006. So if I think about the math on that, that must be, yeah, it feels like 16. Is that right? 16 years.
That's
And then,
right.
right? And
You
then,
made it.
and I've been mediating, I guess, exclusively since 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's about 8 years.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
Well, I have to say, I always love connecting with other lawyers, women lawyers who are still practicing in law in some fashion. I mean, especially the more senior you get, it becomes less and less common.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and even more impressive, Rebecca, is that you're running your own business and you're not working for government.
yeah, and that's fewer and further between as well. Hey, so
Yeah.
it's true when you look back. If I look back to all the people who were practicing when we got out of law school, and then who still is, and it is something, I guess,
Yeah.
unique, a bit more so. Yeah.
Yeah, more like unicorns. So, okay, so why don't you tell everyone what you're working on right now? I'm really excited about it, but I'll let you do the introduction of it.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too. I've been working on it for a long time, but it's called Divii, which is a software for lawyers. It's software to help automate the process of creating separation agreements. It's got automated tools within it, and then those tools sort of populate and help create a finalized draft separation agreement.
Yeah, and I have to say, so I've had the opportunity to use it a little bit, and I just love it. So, given the way we do our practice, we do a lot of separation agreements
Yeah.
through lineal legal coaching. And the way I had started as a lawyer, which is I think the way most lawyers do it, is you start with like the CLE precedent that is available, if you have that subscription. And I'm sure, some lawyers, because I've seen lots of agreements come across my desk, they have their own precedents in their firm that they use, right? And then you go through your precedent and you change things up, and hopefully you catch everybody's name, and hopefully you make all the right changes. And you're not quite sure about certain paragraphs, you leave them in or you take them out. You're not, and often I was working off kind of like a dirty precedent, meaning it was just someone's agreement that I had done before that was comparable to the situations working on now. It still needed some tweaking and some adding of new clauses, etc. And so, but I would start with that because I knew that that was good stuff. And so that's what was so nice about Divii, is that you're not working off a dirty precedent, and you have those little you go through. So if I can describe the experience as a user.
Yeah.
And then I'll let you tell us a bit more about it. Or maybe I should say, so you put in the information, and then there's a series of questions and check boxes. What are we dealing with here? And what, asking you the questions that the software needs the answers to. And then, so you fill that information in. There's a second screen that's the preview, and you can see how the questions and the check boxes translate into the words of the agreement and the clauses that you need for the agreement. And so which I think is just wonderful. And I forgot to say, I think a lot of people probably use DivorceMate as family lawyers. And
Yeah.
maybe you can tell us a little bit, like, what's the difference between Divii and DivorceMate?
Yeah, I think, well, this and DivorceMate and CLE that you mentioned before, like they're building precedents. They've got all the clauses to build yourself a precedent. So not a dirty precedent, a nice clean precedent to use, but Divvy is different in that it builds the agreement. So it's autumn when you get into DivorceMate and you're like, I like this clause, I like that clause. You've got all those gray blocks in there that you not need to go in now and fill in and make decisions while you're drafting. Divvy's asking you the questions in the first place. One question like, is this a primary parenting or shared parenting arrangement? That will populate lots of different places. That'll populate not only the parenting paragraph, but it'll give you the right child tax clause. And
All right, yeah.
those things are coming in different places. If you've got two children, they'll call them the children. If there's only one named Laurel, it'll be Laurel all the way through.
Yeah.
So it's populating the whole of the agreement, leaving room to make further changes, adding your own clauses, tweaking certain things, because as a lawyer, you're going to want to refine them, but you're not coming out with a precedent. You're coming out with an agreement with all the filled in information that you need.
Yeah, and so that's like the point that you make there about how, is this a shared parenting or a single parenting situation? So DivorceMate or the CLE precedent, and we're doing that several times over, repeating the task, whereas with Divvy, it just does it throughout the whole agreement all at once. Yeah. And you don't have to think further or too much about it. So I really enjoy it. And then I should say, I didn't talk about, there is the editor function of Divvy, which then, so you have this draft agreement. And I think it gets you, when you've talked about it before, you said it's about like 80-90% of the way there. And that's probably the best way to be like, this is not my finished agreement. You actually do need to, as a lawyer, edit it.
One of the things with agreement, one of the things and why I built it even in myself, because I think I have a practice similar to yours, is that I'm doing separation agreements. I'm doing a lot of them. So there's so much repetitive work that you do in that, that I wanted to streamline the repetitive stuff that annoys me. And we did for Divvy, sort of talked to about 10 lawyers and did a survey with those people around, like, what do you like about agreements? What do you not like about agreements? What do you enjoy about your practice? That kind of thing. And, most people are saying they hate all that automated stuff, like that stuff that we can automate, like all the things that you do over and over again, the name, the child's name, the same old paragraphing that you put in. But most people really liked drafting. So it still gives you that opportunity to draft the parts that you like, the interesting, creative sort of wording, rather than going through and using all your energy on like the same clauses that you put into every agreement, right?
Yeah, and I just say, like, for anyone who is not a lawyer watching, it really brings, I would say, the legal world into the 21st century that, like, maybe the rest of the world has been enjoying in different facets for many, many years. But for whatever reason, lawyers are very conservative in their use of tech, and they're very, very conservative about adopting new things and developing new things. Like, because we're such a closed culture and we kind of occupy a monopoly in the legal world, we don't actually get that many tech people coming in and being like, oh, hey, I bet we could do this better, right? And so it takes a business-minded lawyer like Rebecca, who then is like, oh, wait a second, I can figure out the tech side of this so that we can like all benefit from it.
Yeah, for sure. And I was just looking at it from the perspective of like, let's say I take 5 minutes every time I draft my shared parenting clause. And let's say I've got, 30 agreements in a year that's shared parenting. And like just the math on that alone is like, that's crazy to be doing that typing like all year long like that. And how much time can I save, or how much money can I make if I'm doing that just once?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I can speak from experience, like it takes my drafting of agreements from like 5 hours to an hour.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I know, if you use it enough, then the clauses that are there. And like, as long as I'm not feeling too precious about changing things, right? And that's where the legal expertise comes in, right? This isn't replacing the lawyer. The lawyer part is actually even more critical, because it's so important that you understand what the clauses mean, why they're there, and that you're using them appropriately, right? And you have to really go in and not be afraid to, you know, if Divi's put something in, that you're like, nope, that's not appropriate in this case, right? Remove it or change it or whatever. So,
and that's what editors there for, is
yeah.
to do exactly that. Yeah, for sure.
So it's just important not to feel too precious about just like Divi is not the God telling us what it needs to be. You are the lawyer in charge. So I just like that's for any junior lawyers who might be interested in using your software at some point, you know, that they should.
Lawyers have gone through how many years of school? 7 years of school and articling and all the, you know, practice years that we've got. We're beyond the drafting of the little everyday clock, right? We don't need to do that over and over again. That doesn't take any skill. What our minds have been trained to do is create, like you said, is to refine it and make the judgments of when this clause, when that clause, and how to change something for your particular client and write those bespoke clauses.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, 100%. It doesn't replace the lawyer. The lawyer is just, it's a tool for.
Yeah. And I can say, like, then as a lawyer, like, this is my fear always, right? I get a bit of tunnel vision when I'm drafting. Like, I'm really focused on one area. But when you're being sued or when somebody's complaining after the agreement's signed, it's never about the area we're focusing on. It was some other area that you didn't think about. And so that's the nice part about Divii. It's kind of like keeping things like this is this is like a baseline. And so that you can direct your attention. You don't need to worry about the typos and, you know, changing various little things because we've done that for you. You can focus on, take that extra bit of time to make sure you have really thought through it all. Right?
Yeah. And one of the things that I always found is like clients used to, you know, if you have a spelling mistake in an agreement, or if you've written their kid's name wrong or something like that, that's a real easy way for your client to be like, she's an idiot. She didn't spell such and such right. So that part I found, okay, that's inexcusable. I got to get that part out and then actually concentrate my efforts on the part, like you said, that really requires the energy.
Yeah, it's so frustrating when that happens because you're like, that was just like such a minor thing. It was just an oversight. And it's like, it doesn't mean I don't have attention to detail, but maybe it does. I don't know.
I think we've all done it. We've all done it, but it's one of these things that clients don't really know about the level of care that you take on so many of the other clauses, and they can hone in on the one thing that they can recognize, which is the spelling mistake or whatever. Yeah. That's how they judge you. So in order to, I think from a customer service perspective, even too, it's just taking all of those spelling pieces out, name, you know, making sure everything's really consistent, and then protecting yourself as a lawyer, making sure you're doing the best work as you can on those other clauses.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's very clear. I love it. Now, what about the future for Divii? So like, where are you at? I guess, where are you at right now with building it and marketing it and selling it? And then what's the future for Divii going forward?
Yeah, well, right now what Divii is doing is it helps. It's got we've just gone through sort of how it does the agreement, but it also has an automated property schedule in there, like a Scott schedule that does all the calculations for equalization payments. It has a child, like a parenting planner, so that you can go over things with your client and sort of refine what a schedule looks like. We're building more tools. I think that we've got a lot of things as lawyers, that family lawyers, that we do over and over and over again. And so to have those tools in there automated, so we're building some more tools. And I think where else we're going with it is really in collaboration, being able to share the agreement share information with your client and the other lawyer, right? And to be able to do that part, I think is really important. Having things integrate with the software that you use in your practice so that feels very streamlined. Those are the pieces where the future, is in the collaboration, it's in the integrations with other pieces of software. And further automating those tools.
So, I mean, that's great. And I should say that property schedule, I didn't mention it, is wonderful because it does all those damn calculations for you. So you're not really second guessing yourself. I mean, you can still do it yourself just to double check that it's done properly, but it's like, it's really nice to have that kind of like, okay, there we are. That looks good. And also it's not me doing the math. I'm not a mathematician. I mean, I can do it, but people make mistakes. And then, just about potentially having the opportunity to be able to collaborate with the opposing lawyer or someone giving ILA on it, that would be, make things, I think, just between lawyers much more streamlined, because you're not involved on the ILA front of agreements, but like it can be really tough to navigate that between lawyers and between clients. And like, then especially throw in like a legal coaching model like ours, we tend not to be out front communicating for our clients unless they want to pay extra for that. And most people don't. Right. And so then we're having like, okay, I communicate with client, we come to an agreement, client goes to either their ex or to their ex's lawyer, and then there's just a whole lot of mess. So that collaboration tool, I think, would save a lot of.
Just to streamline it. So yeah, that's on our radar, is to collaborate that way, to be able to track changes and have different versions, and be notified when changes have been made from the other lawyer.
That would be amazing. And that's the other thing is like, if I've had so many people who say, oh, I'll do track changes. And then you get track changes through Word. And it's like, you cannot read the document. It's just mind numbing because it's like tracked every little space or every little period or comma. And it's just like,
it's so hard to implement the changes.
And then the worst is if they don't do any tracking of changes, because then you have to compare and redo work that you've already done. What did you change? I don't trust you.
Well, yeah, no, for sure. No, to have that be built in and streamlined, I think would be huge. I mean, I don't do it as much anymore for sure, but I certainly remember how much that goes back and forth. And I think part of our survey with lawyers, we asked how often does that go back and forth? And it was, something between 5 and 10 times there on average that people thought that there was that sort of exchange between lawyers. So it's a lot to track.
And sometimes there's just like, there can be disputes about the way something is drafted, or like, and that, I think if we have like a general baseline, instead of like tearing apart the entire agreement for stylistic reasons, it's like, then it's easier to focus on what's important instead of just like, well, I think this part of the agreement should be, this clause 5 should be about, at clause 3, and 3 should be down here. And it's like, there's no difference here.
I think that I hope that as we move forward that there is more of a standardization that way. It just is, because who pays for that ultimately is the client. So if we have something that's easy, that baseline you talk about, and we all kind of operate off of, okay, well, these are sort of the normal clauses and we don't have to nitpick every little thing, and let's save our energy for the big things that are really important. I think that streamlines it ultimately for the client, and it's easier to kind of get through the process.
Okay, so just to wrap up, I know you talked about, are you still doing beta testing for Divii? Are you interested in that and getting more lawyers on board?
We will. Yes, we are. We're right now, you can go on and try it on a 30-day trial, and then we're putting people through sort of a beta test after that. So there's no charge to it, and as we're just generating feedback and trying to understand what pieces lawyers like, what pieces lawyers don't, what we can change a little bit better. So signing up at www.divii.ca, and then just you can just start your 30-day free trial, and that will turn into more free time because we're running it into a beta test.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming, telling us a little bit more about Divii. And I hope any family lawyers out there who are watching this, definitely go check out Divii. It's hopefully the next best thing in that's hit family law since sliced bread, or whatever they say. If you've enjoyed this video, do hit subscribe. We are posting videos regularly with people like Rebecca and other professionals in the divorce world, as well as just talking about general things that come up for clients in divorce that might be able to help them. So if you want to hear more, hit the notification button, hit the subscribe button, and give this video a like. All right. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks for having me. Okay.